this is Christina Caudill with Radiant Astrology, and this is your Starcast for the Taurus New Moon coming up on May the 4th at 14 degrees Taurus. Now, a new moon is always a perfect time to seed our new intentions. It's a time when the moon joins the sun for a new cycle. And this is a phase in the cycle that is all about coming together and consolidating in the sign of Taurus, because Taurus is consolidation. It's when we come from the space of Aries, which is all about instinct, and then we start to come back to ourselves. We need to find a sense of stability, because this is where we have the sense that if we want things to last, we need to stabilize, we need to focus. And Taurus is the sign ruled by Venus. And Venus is about pleasure. And when she is ruling this sign, we know that we can have some pleasure in store for us. Now, there is always a light side and a shadow side of every archetype. Right? The shadow side of Taurus is that sense of limitation, of not having enough to survive. And in some ways, we may have been feeling the pinch a little bit because, recently we had Venus in Pisces, and when she was hanging out there in the last degree of Pisces, we may have just overspent or spent too much of ourselves in pleasure and in escapism. And then now that we're in Taurus season, we find that we need to hang on to what we have. We can't go too much overboard, but we also don't want to go overboard when it comes to our sense of limitation. And we've had a lot of limitation with Saturn stationing retrograde, which has just been happening. And Saturn is a planet of limitation. But both of these archetypes, we've got Saturn and Capricorn, and then we've also got this Taurus energy with the sun in Taurus and the new moon coming. These are earth signs. So there's a lot to do with earth right now. And these are also signs of building things, but building things practically and in the physical world, right? So we want to be thinking about what is worth focusing on, what's worth devoting ourselves to, things that can bring us pleasure, but for the long term, that which actually nourishes us, but something where we actually do need to limit and focus, because we find we are scattered, which is pretty easy nowadays with Mars and Gemini. We can scatter ourselves so much where we're ineffective or where we exhaust ourselves and we don't have anything to show for it, right? So there's this sense of what can we do now to innovate in a way in our lives, or we can be more practical, where we can make decisions that are practical, that can help us to be more effective so that we can, save some money for that vacation, or enjoy our lives, but do it in a way where we're working toward a sense of satisfaction and enjoyment. But before we get to that new moon, we have a few things happening right now. We've got Mercury is in Aries, and Mercury is doing a lot right now because in Aries, Mercury can be a little fiery. That can be, the fiery words or the sudden blurting things out, especially when the ruler of Aries, Mars, is in Gemini, which is Mercury's sign, and Mars is out of bounds. So this quickness of the tongue, quickness of saying things, sharp words, maybe even, that has sort of been in the ethers lately, but now with Mercury coming up to square Saturn and Pluto, now that can make our mind, our communication, really, any of these little slips of the tongue can go deep. And we really want to be conscious of these conversations that we're having. And that could even mean some really significant conversations, some deep conversations, conversations that can change our lives, because also Mercury square the nodes too, right? So it's basically in a T-square with Saturn and Pluto and the north and south node, right? And Mercury in Aries, we may be needing to initiate that conversation. Maybe we know that there's something that's left unsaid, and we have to find the courage to say what needs to be said. Or maybe there is someone who's not speaking to us, and that can also send a message, and that maybe that'll fire us up inside, or maybe that'll help to trigger or catalyze some kind of transformation within. So it's really transformative conversations, transformative thinking, transformative learning. Right? Our mind is really on fire in Aries, but when it is square these powerful planets like Saturn and Pluto, then these are the planets of karma, and they're just stationing retrograde. That means they're really deepening in their significance in the collective. So we're really feeling them. And I spoke a lot about Saturn and Pluto retrograding in Capricorn. I've been doing a lot of posts on it on my Instagram at Radiant Astro. And I just did a fantastic, I'll say it's fantastic, podcast on Saturn and Pluto retrograde, because I had a fantastic guest. And we had an incredibly profound conversation. So you want to check that out. That was my guest, Shireen Vismaya, a Jungian analyst and astrologer. We had a lot of great fun talking about Saturn and Pluto retrograde in Scorpio. I'll have that link below this video, so you'll want to check it out more for that. But these are very transformative times, right? And something needs to be said, or something needs to be faced. We can't turn away from things anymore. If there's something that we keep running into, a type of a pattern or something, then it can be coming to a head, and it needs our attention. It needs our awareness. And so all of this is leading up to this new moon in Taurus. Now, Taurus season tends to be a time where, as I said before, we go from the excess of Aries into the need to stabilize and consolidate in Taurus. And so as the moon comes to join the Taurus sun, it really is a time where we want to slow down a little bit. We want to actually enjoy nature, right? I mean, Taurus is the sign of Mother Earth and of nature, and of all this transformative shadow work and purging and everything we've been doing has really been, triggering us in many ways. And, it's disturbing, right? These are the planets that disturb and transform. Some of the great ways to help to integrate this work and to heal ourselves is to be in nature, for one. And Taurus ruling things like the physical senses and our physical bodies. Maybe get a wonderful massage, or treat yourself in some way where you can enjoy the senses. I always love Taurus season, because it's really a time to just, luxuriate in the small things. Because when we have too much excess, sometimes that can just numb our senses. It can numb our taste buds. When you can really just taste something and really savor it, right? Taurus is the sign of savoring. Whatever it is you're doing for the new moon on Saturday, you want to savor it. You want to take your time. And again, a new moon is a time where we can seed new intentions. And so Taurus also suggests quality. So whatever we're doing now, wherever we're going to put our focus, and for those of you who know your charts, look to where 14 degrees Taurus is in your natal chart. What house is it in? That will give you some indication to some area where it would be really advantageous to set some new intentions. And bring quality into this intention, right? It's so easy. We get so caught up with doing this and doing that and doing more and more and more and being efficient and, productive, that Taurus wants us to deepen in quality. Think about what quality means. What does it mean to create something of quality? When you see something of quality, someone of quality, or even some craftsmanship that's made of quality, or a meal that's been made with love and, every bite is so delicious and bursting with flavor and quality, whatever it is that quality sort of triggers in you, you want to bring that sense into this moment of the new moon, because quality really speaks to putting all of your love and your psychic energy into something. And so another positive aspect about this new moon is its sextile to Neptune and Pisces. And this is the fantasy aspect. So even though we want to intend for something that's of a practical nature that can help us to up level and upgrade in our lives, and do so in a way that actually helps to, bring a sense of stability into our lives, there is this like little hint that we can bring some magic and inspiration to it, maybe even a sense of sacredness. And so it makes me think of, what are some Taurus activities like gardening or doing something around the home that helps you to create a more luxurious environment. Also, again, caring for the body, that self-care that's practical, maybe starting some healthy habits, but also doing so in a way where you can luxuriate in them. I don't know, maybe going to a spa or getting a really nice massage, as I said, because we also want to pamper ourselves in a way, but do so in a way where we know it will help care for ourselves, care for the spirit as well as the physical body. Because when we have this beautiful support from Neptune, then that can really help to, infuse this moment with some magic and some beauty. We also want to just take some time to rest, because Taurus is about really coming back to the self, because ultimately we are finding that it is up to us to be the generator of our own magic in our lives, right? And that takes going inward. That takes aligning mind, body, and spirit. And, we want to avoid the burnout of the constant keeping up with, work and with the fast pace of life. This is a time to slow down a bit. Even though there's other things happening, Mars is still out of balance in Gemini, as I said. That is our instinct that just, again, it's so easy to be scattered. But this new moon is reminding us to, at least for this brief time, to come back to ourselves. And we also have some support from Saturn in Capricorn, as I said, because it's trine this new moon. The new moon will, soon be moving on, like the sun will soon come to trine Saturn and then Pluto. Now, this previous week, we had Saturn squaring the sun. And that really felt like pressure, like deadlines, like burdens, and also Pluto squaring the sun. That was those intense power struggles and things. So now that we're going to have the sun coming up to trine them, that is going to be a lot more of a positive, like growth orientation. We're going to have a sense of flow. It's like if we did the work, if we found our personal power, if we dug deep within ourselves to find our truth, to find our center, then we can have more of a sense of we can move forward, we can make progress. And again, in these signs, these earth signs, then that means making practical progress. You know, and you might not immediately see results immediately, but it's like, you know, you sense that you're doing things, you're building foundations that are going to reap rewards. We also have a really positive aspect of, potentially positive, of Mars opposing Jupiter, which is right after the new moon, the following day, like early Sunday. And that can really help us. You know, I like to think of Jupiter as like a big piñata filled with lots of blessings, and Mars can come up and just like cut it with a knife, right? Because Mars is sharp objects. And so that can really be helpful to trigger our wishes, our hopes, our dreams. You know, Jupiter is a great benefic. And even though he just recently went retrograde, he's still Jupiter. He's in Sagittarius. And that is really, you know, again, as I said before, that's looking within for your deity. You know, knowing that you can create your own magic and miracles in your life. And with Mars there, with Mars opposing Jupiter, I mean, we want to watch this doesn't have negative effects in our relationships, because, you know, Jupiter can just be a lot, you know, and we can help that become positive if our intentions are positive. And Jupiter can also bring us luck. It can bring us protection. So it's possible that things with relationships that have been very tense lately, maybe some words have been spoken that have brought up some, you know, some wounds or some hurt, or things that needed to be said but weren't easy to hear or to say. And Jupiter can help us to get through that, to find the hope again. You know, because sometimes things need to be cleared, right, in order for us to say, well, is this relationship really valuable in the end? You know, do we still share a common vision? And ultimately, we are meant to go out on a new journey. Sometimes that does mean leaving others behind, or it can just mean, you know, saying thank you and having gratitude for that relationship, because, you know, Jupiter can really help us to find our gratitude. And have hope for a new future, have hope for a new horizon. Now, as I said, we've had Mercury, planet of communication, planet of the mind, of learning, of information, going through this really intense part of the zodiac where it's been in a T-square with the lunar nodes and Saturn and Pluto. And it's moving out of that. And now Venus is coming up next. And so she'll be in orb of that for the new moon, and it's exact on Mondays when she squares the nodes, and then she'll go on to square Saturn and Pluto next week. So this is really testing our relationships, right? Venus in Aries, okay? And she's ruling this new moon. So that could be, you know, these, whatever's happening in relationships, it takes some initiation, right? Aries is about initiating. It's what about me? It's I am. It's finding the courage to make the first step or to reach out, and, you know, be courageous in it. And when we do these things, we're doing them because we know what's best for us. Even if we don't know the outcome, you know, we can never know if someone, we can't control the reaction or response from someone else when we reach out. But these, you know, Venetian subjects, which is mostly relationships, love, contracts, money, these types of things that Venus rules, these are going to be on the line. These now are calling for some serious transformation. Relationships can change our lives. They can change in a moment, right? Especially when the nodes are involved, because the nodes shift our path of destiny. So we want to be very conscious of how we navigate our relationships. You know, maybe it will take a sense of us coming back to ourselves, finding our own responsibility of being independent. We can be independent in relationships. And sometimes, we need that in relationships in order to have balance, in order to come back to a sense of equality. And so, Venus is going to have a little bit of an intense road afterward, after the new moon. But if we've already done the work, the courage of the Mercury journey through that, Mercury was about thinking through things, thinking deeply, trying to see the other's viewpoint. There's never just one viewpoint when it comes to our relationships with people. Each person is an entire universe. How much do we really know ourselves? And how much can we expect another person to really know themselves either, right? So these are been like really intense, like alchemical times for relationships, for communication, bringing some heat into these relationships. And that heat is meant to transform us, transform our hearts. Where is your heart in this relationship? What needs to be said? What needs to be shifted? How can you work together and cooperate without compromising too much? And anytime Saturn is involved, that means responsibilities, duties, and then Pluto, that is intense metamorphosis, right? And that can mean that, maybe you need to really figure out how you can bond with another. It likely is going to bring this sense of bonding through things like power struggles, through things like being responsible for cleaning up your side of the street, basically. And so we want to be conscious of that. And that is, the week of May 6th. That is when Venus is going through that, little tense part of the zodiac from like the 6th to the 9th. And she is ruling this new moon. So what we want to do is, for this new moon, we want to take time, as I said, to fantasize and to envision what it is you want to build in your life. Use that magic of Neptune to help inspire you. And do something, as I said, that can also help to nourish your dreams, like a meditation practice, right? Maybe getting a little more serious about it, because we have this positive aspect from Saturn. Saturn wants us to structure things, don't just say, oh yeah, I meditate once in a while, start doing it every day. Or a creative practice. Maybe you've been wanting to learn cooking or gardening, or a musical instrument, or photography, or something like that, something Neptunian or something Taurian. But whatever it is, we want to use this powerful support from Saturn to help us gain some structure and get serious and gain a little bit of mastery as well. Saturn can also symbolize the support of an elder, calling on your elders, your ancestors, or a boss, or someone older, more wise and more experienced, to help you manifest what it is you feel is really where you need to upgrade and elevate. This is actually the area, wherever Taurus rules in your chart, is really going to be going through a lot of change and evolution, because Uranus is there, right? And so Uranus is saying it's time to change. And Taurus can tend to procrastinate. I've said this before, the Taurus area of your chart, you've likely been putting it off. You've likely been procrastinating it because it's probably something you need to do, something that that will help you get to the next level, but you haven't quite been ready to invest the time and energy and focus there. Well, now is the time. Now remember, a new moon is just a seeding moment. It's just taking the first step, putting the intention out, but being clear about that intention and setting it in motion. And we don't really see the results of the new moon, until the full moon 6 months later. And then you have the opportunity to see the results if you've been, cultivating that area of your chart. And that's another Taurus word, is cultivation, right? So it's like when you are seeding this moment, you want to bring some magic and sacredness and inspiration to it. You want to bring some seriousness and focus into it. And you want to make sure it's both practical and something that brings you pleasure, and just taking the first step, knowing that it's going to likely be, kind of a long road for manifestation. It may take some, putting one foot in front of the other. Again, getting a teacher or someone of mastery to help you along in this journey, but it's going to be worth it in the end. And now with Taurus, there's really this need to accept your own self-sufficiency, knowing that you can make the money that you need to make, you can earn it, or you can get it however you need to, you can survive. It's like, I can survive. And that takes faith, that takes belief in yourself. And that also takes manifesting, right? Not looking at your bank account now and saying, oh my God, it's going to be at this a small amount forever. It's really taking an honest look at what would I need in order to really be able to live my dreams, and how can I get there? Maybe you have something that you love to do, and you've been trying to make some money at it, but it's not been really working out. What can you do to improve that? You may have to cut out some other activities and really focus on that which can then help sustain you, help be more sustainable over the long haul. And so there's very much this need to be the masters of our own fate, the masters of our own universe when it comes to our resources, being resourceful. But there's so many beautiful aspects along with this new moon, that we don't want to all make it just be about survival and what I need to do to make money. It's really asking you, what do you need to do to have more pleasure in your life? And how can you start to create some structure around that? And know that ultimately, you are the one that can make all the magic happen in your life. And even when we have these issues with relationships and with relating to others, ultimately our self-love, that's another very important area of Taurus. Our self-love is the generator of all the potential of the abundance of love we can have in our lives. So regardless of what might be happening with others, know that it all comes back to your sense of self and your self-love, because people can sense that. If you hate yourself and you are radiating that out, then that speaks volumes to people. You want to come back and bring your love to yourself. And when you can have that well of love within, then that can actually extend to others in a healthy way, in a way where it doesn't always have to be a battle or codependency. So just come back to the center for this new moon in Taurus. Enjoy that which, enjoy what you have, actually, rather than constantly trying to manifest abundance, which, you totally could. You could put that in your new moon intentions. We really want to, for now, appreciate and have gratitude for what we have and savor what we have. And actually, only when we can be grateful for what we already have can we truly feel abundant, and can we then ask powerfully for things in our life, because we're already feeling abundant. It's not like we're trying to fill a hole. We just feel already like we have enough, like we are enough, and that already attracts all that we need and we want to attract. Okay, well, that is your new moon starcast. I hope that you have a beautiful and healing and magical and sensuous new moon in Taurus. Check out my podcast. I'll have the link below if you want more on the powerful Saturn, Pluto, retrograde in Capricorn. And oh, I don't want to forget, this Saturday on the new moon is the first day of our aspects course for New Paradigm Astrology. I'm going to be teaching all about the lunar phases, and we'll explore the lunar phases we were born under because they have a lot to say about our self-actualization. And it's a fascinating topic. And this course is 7 weeks of all about planetary dynamics, how all of the planets play with each other and interact with each other and run up against each other, and how that can help us to really get so much more juice out of chart interpretation. So I hope you'll join me. Check out the link below. Again, we start May 4th on the new moon. Have a beautiful new moon, and I will see you next time. Bye.